The nightmare is being lifted. Redfall is officially no more. It just got its final patch, and I don't know what's in this patch, but I can guarantee you it's not a refund for the people who bought the Deluxe edition and got less than 10% of what was promised to them.
Well, everyone, it's sort of a weird day because Redfall, a game which we've been following very closely for a long time, is officially done. And
just another nail in the Bethesda coffin.
I don't mean like, oh, now they're closing or anything, because they've already been closed down. What I mean is that the game received its final update. It will never get another one, and it actually adds a lot. You can see they've added off.
It doesn't matter what it adds. First of all, no one cares. Second of all, you know what's now starting? Well, Redfall is still playable. AKA, as time passes, bugs are gonna be created in Redfall. And no one's gonna fix them because no one's left to update the game. Unless some developers, some magically how finds a way to start fixing bugs on their own spare time, which is not happening. Redfall is slowly gonna become buggier and buggier and buggier. And that's honestly a very interesting state for that game to be in.
Offline mode, single player pausing, new unrivaled weapon, revamped neighborhood and nest systems, new enemy encounters in Redfall Commons, DLSS 3.0,
Wow.
and a bunch more. Among those other improvements are things such as improved stability, better rendering, better frame times to make.
I mean, they did definitely not improve how much of this of the screen the gun takes. Are we playing a game or are we just playing a holding gun simulator?
Get less like laggy during combat, all sorts of little bitty quality of life improvements. And I will say, having left all my settings unchanged from the last time I made a Redfall video, the game is running significantly better, much more stable, and actually is far more responsive than I remember it being.
Not that honestly matters, but okay.
And maybe that's just me like with rose-tinted glasses looking at this, but it feels much better to play. And so as you're fighting waves of enemies and vampires come at you, you can now summon your vampiric boyfriend to fight for you, and he can help you take him down, which is nice. It's the best use for a vampire boyfriend I've come up with.
He doesn't even sparkle. I'm so disappointed.
And then we stab. See, it's pretty silky. Pretty silky, I'll give them that. Gotta reload, damn it. The AI seems better. They're much more responsive.
Okay, listen, I don't exactly know what's happening. Maybe it's copium, considering he actually has spent so much time playing this, but I see this and I'm like, okay, so what is this, like early super alpha draft of a game? Nothing here looks good, nothing looks interesting, the shooting just looked lame. The voice effects are bad, the graphics are dumb, the enemy AI is, well, at least they're not T-posing, I guess, so that's a bonus here, but everything sucks hard, okay?
And aggressive, it just seems to be working really well. I'll give them that. Now, the reason today is particularly odd is just because nobody really expected to get here. Like when Microsoft announced they were closing down Arkane Austin, the studio behind this game, we all were like, okay, yeah, I mean, we kind of saw that coming, especially with how the game was received. If Microsoft needed to cut jobs, they were probably going to find the jobs from the studios that had the worst releases of the last year or two. So it sort of made sense, you know. It sucks to say, but I used the wrong skill. Stop it. Put the umbrella away. Stop it. I don't want
What great design, someone said.
this. There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then I go up here and I can climb that way. Okay, see, that was cool. Totally intentional. But the point is, when they announced that they were closing down Arkane Austin, I think a lot of us were just like, okay, well, that's that. That's it. They're closing down the studio. The game's basically over now. The story of the game is over. They're not going to be able to make those improvements that they allegedly were working on. And that's that. But to their credit, the people over at Arkane Austin, even after they found out that they had been laid off and were losing their jobs, they still worked their butts off to get this out the door, which I think deserves some credit, because a lot of people would just be like, no, screw that. I'm
What exciting gameplay.
Done. You know, the story of the game's over. I don't need to work on it anymore. That's all, folks. But
Yeah, because that's how jobs work, you know? Your boss tells you to do something and you're like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. I'm doing something other. Yeah. What's with America and completely losing the sauce when it comes to understanding you are an employee in a workplace, and that workplace is not a daycare for adults. I mean, as long as those people aren't fired, their bosses can tell them, make Redfall 2, and they have to oblige, and they don't have the right to say no.
they actually made a point to deliver on the promises they had made to everybody when the game launched, that they were going to add offline mode, that they were going to improve things like encounter variety and how encounters actually spawned in the world, make sure that the big vampiric nests could be improved, which they've done by adding elder nests and stuff. So there's a lot of things that they've done which I never really expected them to follow through on, especially after the closure. And honestly, after these most recent improvements, the game is pretty buttery, and you can actually like get moving pretty good as you blast through areas and fighting people. Like, it's actually playing pretty good now, and I think that's awesome. Of course,
the fact that he needed to insert a cut there because he did not find enough enemies probably in a time kind of, I think, tells you honestly everything that you need to know. I never talked about this, but we have seen a lot of Stephen Boy's videos about this. And the thing is, there's always cuts between shooting because too much time passes until you find one encounter with maybe one or two enemies, and then you find a second encounter with maybe like one or two enemies.
Of course, it's unfortunate that the studio had to close, and a year later, we're now at the point where the game is playing at a level where I think you could release this and it would have received maybe like 7s or 8s out of 10, because at least the game is fun.
Are you kidding me? No one would play this because this is boring.
Functional, and there's stuff to do now, and that stuff actually works. But I guess better late than never. You know, it's too bad that big publishers like Microsoft can't learn the lessons of a game like Redfall before everything crashes and burns.
Didn't Bethesda make this one? Didn't Microsoft acquire all of this be a little bit too late to pull the stop on it because it was too far into development? Sadly,
it's because the people at Arkane Austin, they just did their jobs. They were working as hard as they could on this game, and it just wasn't coming together. And there was reporting by Jason Schreier that was saying that those employees actually were hoping, after they were bought out by Microsoft, that they would have this project canceled and they could go back and work on something like a new Dishonored, for example. But that,
oh yeah, a third Dishonored that's a complete shit show. Yeah, I really want that. I really want another failure Dishonored. Listen, Dishonored 1, amazing, cool, very, very fun. Dishonored 2, oh please, just stop, okay? I'm done. I don't want to deal with that. And then they wanted to make another failure Dishonored? No, thank you.
that never happened. And then we, of course, got this game, and they lose their jobs. Meanwhile, the executives over at Xbox that allowed this game to happen and be greenlit and funded, those people all still have their jobs. A lot of them got raises and bonuses, I'm sure.
As they deserve, because, I mean, they didn't fucking make this atrocious mess.
For cutting the budgets and making the business run more efficient.
Listen, no executive who is currently sipping champagne on his private jet while just slightly harassing the girl that's supposed to give you the drinks, or a lot, depends. They didn't make the shooting this bad, okay? They didn't decide that there can only be one vampire on the screen at a time. They didn't design these skills. They didn't design any of the things that make Redfall at its core a complete and utter fucking failure. No executive designed this. This was purely the devs. This was the developers. This was the creational team, or whatever you want to call them. No executive contributed to this absolute mess of a shit show.
And that just sucks. You know, the people that were ultimately responsible for Redfall as it launched are still in positions,
As they should be.
you know, high up within the companies, are still making buku bucks and are doing just fine. But you know what? I feel like we should actually test some of this stuff that they've added in this update to the game, such as the offline stuff, such as the ability to pause the game in single
Offline stuff, okay.
player. So let's actually find enemies and see if we can pause
Is offline different than single player, I wonder, though?
the game. Okay, here we go. We got some enemies. Plink. They're shooting at me, and I pause. We let it
Very
sit for
cool.
a second, see if they're gonna kill me while the game is paused. Maybe. Okay, let's see. We close it down, and yeah, sure enough, the game actually pauses. And I know it's funny to be like, oh, cutting
Who made these guns half the screen and why?
edge feature, the game pauses. But the thing is, like, this was a live service game. This was meant to be like a always online co-op game. And so they thought they could kind of get away with it at launch of not having any sort of offline mode at all. And so they just didn't bother with it. They said, we'll add that later at launch. And then the game was canceled basically. But they've actually added it in. Let's
Oh my god, look at how shitty designed this game actually is. So you have this
away
skill,
with it at launch of
Look.
not having any
then you climb it
sort
up,
of
Okay.
offline mode at all. And so they just didn't bother with it. They said,
then there's a bunch of rocks here because obviously some kids were bored.
we'll add that later at launch.
And then there's a fucking picnic table here. Okay? No, this is not real life. God, I hate it. And this doesn't need to be real life, but if you're making a city, at least make it, you know, realistic, not some Suicide Squad fever dream.
And then the game was canceled basically. But they've actually added it in. Let's try now going offline. So on my gaming PC, I have it hardwired into my routers.
And if there, by the way, is a picnic table on the rocks, and people actually go there, or it's intended to be there, there should probably be, I don't remember what they're called. Railings? I think they're called railings in nature. Railings that prevent people from falling off. Okay? Again, make the world realistic. You can't make an open world anything and then just be like, diarrhea here, diarrhea there. Oh, let's put some big dragon here. No, you can't do that. Shit doesn't. If a world doesn't make sense, people are gonna hate the world, because even if you don't actively think about the world, you subconsciously though do observe it. And when a world makes absolutely no sense, you kind of don't like it because it's messed up and awkward.
So I'm just going to unplug it. I have Wi-Fi turned off on this computer, and we're going to see if the game goes away once I unplug it. We'll see if it crashes, okay? Let's find out together.
Can't you just, you know, turn off your internet in the settings here somewhere? I don't know, by the way, if you can do it. I assume you probably can.
I think this is the first time I've unplugged a cable in a video. You see? You see, I've actually done it. There's the cable. We'll leave it there. And if we go here, you see the internet is no longer connected, but the game still plays.
I mean, I have seen this happen in old games, by the way. Maybe the game doesn't actually play. Maybe you can just move for some reason.
Just fine.
Let's see.
Imagine that. So here we are, actually playing the game disconnected from the internet. So there's that. That's cool. Now listen, I know there's still going to be people in the comment section kind of reveling in this game's death because it represented a lot of the things that are currently wrong with the gaming industry. You know, the push for live service at the cost of creativity, the sacrificial lamb that was Arkane Austin at the altar of ZeniMax owners getting the most money out of the acquisition from Xbox. Like, I think it does represent a lot of the problems in the industry. I think it's unfortunate that talented devs had to suffer as a result of that, and that
I don't think a single dev left in this studio is talented. If they were talented, they would have never made anything after Dishonored 1, not in the state that they made it. And they would have not made Redfall. Well, they would have made Redfall, but they would have made it bad. I honestly think a lot of people who just couldn't go into the gaming space as developers are clueless fucking idiots who had absolutely no friends while growing up, and then they played stupid games, never figured out what actually made those games good, and now they're just creating slop for the rest of us to consume. I honestly think that's just happening. The quality of game developers is just dropping off like a rock in the ocean.
That the people really responsible for this game didn't seemingly suffer any blowback except for maybe some nasty messages on Twitter, X, and in YouTube comments. But I think that what the message of today should perhaps be is that, to their credit, they've actually followed through on what they said they were going to do, which was to add offline play, to add pausing in single player mode, to improve performance, to improve the end game content and stuff like that. They've actually delivered on those promises, despite Microsoft basically firing everybody. Even after they found out they had lost their jobs, they still worked hard to deliver to the fans that still remained what they were promised. And I think that that's admirable. Like, is Redfall an amazing game now? I don't personally think so, but I do think that it's much
Also, the reality about this delivered what was promised is most likely that they are trying as hard as possible to deliver as much as they can. So there is no chance that they get sued by the people who bought the deluxe editions and then didn't get the things that were promised. I think that's why they are doing this.
closer to the game that people wanted today compared to where it was when the game launched. And I think that's only because, despite all the blowback, despite all the negativity online because of the game's condition at launch, the team was still trying.
What a great action game. I mean, like, look at that. You saw that again. 2 vampires down the drain. Mamma mia.
To turn it into something good. And that, even in and of itself, is.
You know what this reminds me of, honestly? What was that? The day before. That's what this reminds me, honestly. The day before. This is literally the day before, isn't it? If you think about it,
Is an accomplishment, because so many studios and publishers, if there's a flop, they just dump it immediately. Like, look at the day before that game launched, and
oh wow, I mean, I know I'm talking about graphics and how it plays because how it's empty. Wow.
existed for like a
Okay.
day before it was
Wow.
completely gutted and abandoned and shut down. And granted, that was like technically a volunteer
Yeah, you see what I mean? It feels the same, doesn't it?
project. It wasn't really a a great example of a game that
Also, the day before was literally intended to be a scam.
ever looked real, but still in the modern.
And by the way, I want to remind people, because a lot of gamers are like, we won the day before, got taken off Steam. They made away with millions. The day before, devs made away with millions, and the internet celebrated that as a victory. The day before, devs could have gotten sued, but now that everyone's happy about them being destroyed, even though they are already for months now running a new company that's making mobile games. Yeah, I mean, what a great win, boys.
Modern day, a lot of games get put together, and when they don't deliver, they just get abandoned quickly. But they were at least working on Redfall. There were other things they could have done better, such as communication with their audience, such as communication with media in general, to tell them, yes, we are working on the game still, we are working on improvements. But, you know, I guess you live and you learn. And now I guess Arkane Austin won't have the chance to learn because they are shut down, but that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. I will say there are some really interesting posts on X today after the studio has officially closed and everything.
Oh,
Harvey
really?
Smith, one of the head honchos, you know, I hope you play it solo or with friends and try to see it with fresh eyes. Basically, try to give the game a chance and get some enjoyment out of it, even if it's not a 10 out of 10. You know, you can still find some enjoyment with it.
I mean, it's still like a 1 out of 10. So no.
Another thing I wanted to post as we were packing up the offices at Arkane Austin, I snapped some of the design value posters we made and hung on the wall during Dishonored and Prey. And you can see if I I'm disconnected from the...
Oh yeah, they also made Prey. I forgot about that. I completely forgot about that. Prey was good, but Prey was not a masterpiece, guys. Like, come on. Prey was kind of good with super genetic fucking, dialogue and kind of lackluster shooting and stuff. It was cool, but it was not amazing. It was just kind of good. It's that 5 out of 10 that if you're bored, it's good. It's like Fallout, the TV show. It's a 5 out of 10, but if you're super bored, you might as well play it. That was Prey. It was kind of good, but it was nothing special. It didn't grab anyone by anything. Not by the nuts, not by the breath. So, yeah, again, Arkane Austin is touted way too much of Heroes of Existence. Dishonored 1, sure, that is actually a really good game. Everything after Dishonored 1 that they did with Dishonored, complete trash. Complete travesty against humanity. Everyone hated it. Then they make Prey. Again, overrated, sadly. And yeah, people are sad. Oh, Arkane Austin is such a great. No, they're trash. They're objectively trash, based on their run.
Internet. That's why. Hold on. Let me plug it back in. Somebody out there was watching the video and was like, "Yeah, it's not gonna pull up, Luke. You dumbass. Just plug in your computer again." Okay. Anyway, now I pull it up and you can see like all these cool little pieces of art. And
what's cool about them? I'm sorry, what exactly here is cool?
Notes and stuff that they made, that they had in the studio, that now is gone. Because here's the thing, even if you didn't like Redfall, as I frankly didn't and still don't really enjoy it, despite me playing it constantly, you still have to acknowledge that this studio was responsible for like Prey. Prey was an amazing game and still is.
Yeah, but no one bought it for some strange reason. I wonder how that happened. Such an amazing game, and yet no one bought it. I mean, all the character interactions in Prey were just sad. Let me tell you that already.
It's fantastic and mind-bending. It's really, really cool. And while the Arkane Austin that made that game is no longer really there and has kind of splintered off and disintegrated, and now it's fully shut down, of course, I think it is still sad to see what was at one time a pretty big and influential studio in the gaming industry. It's just gone now, and it's gone, in my opinion, due to the greed of the executives over at ZeniMax that were pushing to try and get as many live service.
Oh boy, is Luke just another young guy in the making at this point? Kind of feels like it.
Games as they possibly could out the door to make themselves look more appealing to Microsoft before the buyout. And that's ultimately why we got games like Fallout 76. It's why we got games like this greenlit. It's because they wanted to make themselves look like cash printing machines to Microsoft. And it helped them get a $7 billion offer for the company, but it also cost many people who didn't see a penny of that $7 billion. It cost them all their jobs. And
oh no! The people who did not make the company did not get a part of the company's money. Oh no! The horror! How is that possible? I did not own the company. I did not help make it. I'm just here sweeping fucking shit off the ground. But I didn't get a bite of that 7 billion? How is this possible? Fucking kill me now.
And in some cases, friendships and security, living with their families in Austin. Now they have to move to find another job. It's just, there's cascading effects just because a couple of executives wanted to get more money for their big yacht collection. And, human lives ultimately.
I went to do a job, and my job is not infinite. I did not infinite job talk. kill me now.
Suffer as a result of those decisions, and I think it's important not to forget that. There is still a little bit of that OG launch charm. You know, even after these updates, we're still gonna have some of that charm, which is just it's good to see.
3 enemies on screen? Is this not a little bit too much?
It's good to see. You know, don't ever change. Don't ever change too much. Can I get a 2-in-1? Nope. I'll take the 1 though. Oh, well.
I thought for a moment my internet crashed.
Okay.
What? Why? Are you looking for Redfall hentai? I did. There's nothing good.
No. Oh, no. The game crashed. Oh. I don't even know what that means, but okay. Well, we'll try booting up again to wrap this video up. Okay, so maybe it's not all that much better. Okay.
Okay, so what are the closing thoughts? I'm sad people who did a bad job got fired, and the executives still made money. Oh no, the horror. The horror! Anyway, I'm done. That was our boy Luke. The young 2.0 in the making, boys. What a time to be alive. Bye.